welcome. Today I'm going to do a quick card. I'm in need, unfortunately, of a sympathy card. One of my favorite things that I like to do to make a sympathy card is to use a homemade stencil that I've cut using my Cricut and just some regular craft acetate that I pick up on Amazon.com. This is a pattern that I've kind of put together myself using various butterfly images from Cricut Design Space. One of the, I don't know if it's kind of a universal worldwide thing, but one of kind of the symbols of sympathy here anyway are butterflies. So I generally use this stencil for spring themed cards or sympathy cards, and as you can see, it's it's well loved. To clean, just a little hot water and Blue Dawn dish detergent cleans that right up. So for the project, I'm going to be using that stencil. Again, I've made this myself. You can buy any kind of stencil. Make any kind of stencil. You don't even need a stencil for this. It's very, I'm just going to do some blending with distress inks, and the colors that I have chosen are Peacock Feathers, Fossilized Amber, and Spice Marmalade. Over here are what I'm going to be using for this sympathy card. Also for inks, I'm going to be using my Versamark ink. For heat embossing, you can use any kind of clear, sticky pigment ink that you want for heat embossing. I happen to have Versamark because I have probably a lifetime supply of Versamark that I picked up on sale and with some good coupons probably about 6 months ago. So I still have 2 more of these that are sealed and sitting in my ink drawer that I'm not even sure if I'll ever get to in this lifetime. This pad is probably, I think, my second one ever. For my stamping, I'm also going to be using the Ranger Black Archival Ink. I'm only using that because I'm too lazy to get something else out of my drawer. Any kind of ink will work. For my sentiments, I'm going to be using 2 sentiments from the Recollections Sympathy collection. I'm going to be using the My Heart Goes Out to You During This Difficult Time, and also the I Am Always Here For You. I'm going to stamp on the inside. The other things that I have here, I have a piece of white cardstock for doing the actual ink blending on. This is nothing fancy, just plain white 110 pound cardstock from Staples. I know that people like to use things that are a little bit more fancy for their Oxide inks. I don't really care as long as it comes out looking nice and it serves its purpose. I also have this nice piece of teal cardstock that I'm going to use to matte my image once it's all done. I have my Hampton Art Stamp Perfect tool, which I've already kind of pre-set up with the sentiments that I'm going to be stamping. I have a card base that I have my my personal stamp pre-stamped on the back. And for embossing powder, I'm going to be using Nuvo embossing powder, and this is Classic Gold. This Nuvo embossing powder, this is a new product for me, and I'm really liking it. I've tried some Wow embossing powder and I like it. I've tried Whispers embossing powder, which I don't particularly care for. I like the Recollections detail embossing powder. So this is a new one for me. This is the first color that I've picked, and I really like it. So I think I'm probably going to pick up a few more colors once I start having a need for them. So to go ahead and get started, just to get it out of the way so I can get my Stamp Perfect out of the way, I'm just going to quickly stamp my sentiment in black on the inside of the card. I love my little Stamp Perfect. I have seen that the Tim Holtz tonic stamping platform is on sale in a couple places this week. It's pretty big though. I don't know if I have want to store that. And I don't know if I necessarily need anything bigger. This is an A7, a 5x7 card that I'm using, and I just kind of put the angle, the door angled, whichever way that I need to have it. And of course the card is open, and I'll do my stamping and then... So, yeah, it would be nice to have something bigger because this is a little inconvenient, but it's hardly the end of the world. And I apologize for the camera angle facing me more than you. So I'm just going to stamp up. I'm doing black. That was not a very good inking. I need to do that again. I can already tell I need to do that again. Much better. And I'll just give my stamp. Oh, I forgot to wet my stamp chamois. That's okay. I'll just use a baby wipe this time. I forgot to wet my stamp chamois. How could I be so unprepared? To be fair, the stamp chamois is a relatively new addition to my craft area, so it's not usually instinct that draws me to it. So there we go. I have my sentiment stamped on the inside, and once I'm done inking the outside, I'll get my the outside sentiment taken care of. What did I do with the cover for this? Oh, there it is. Okay, and the Ranger ink is a dye ink, so it's already dry. So I'll just set that aside, and let me heat emboss it now, and we'll just ink right over it. And that way I can put this whole thing away. That's one of the things I love about heat embossing, is you can ink right over it. Oh, I forgot to mention that I'll also be using embossing powder and masking tape and also double-sided tape in my project. Here it is. I'm gonna hit this with my anti-static powder tool really quick. Gotta be careful not to touch the cardstock after I use this. I'm so guilty of having dirty fingerprints. Well, not dirty, but leaving my fingerprints on something that I've just used the tool on and then wondering why there's a fingerprint shaped spot right there that's hanging on to embossing powder. Where could that possibly come from? I don't know. So I'm just gonna ink this up. I don't know if I've ever used this stamp set before. Get a nice impression. Looks pretty good. Get this out of the way. Get my embossing powder. I do have a little bit of powder left on here. I'm just going to grab a dry, clean paintbrush that I keep in my pencil jar over here off camera for just these occasions. And I just dropped the scissors, which is awesome. Okay. Gonna heat emboss that really quick. I use the Darice Heat tool. I believe this was around $13 or $14. Cheap, perfect. It's the only one I've ever had. Never had any issues with it or need to replace it or anything. I don't see any reason why spend more money if you don't have to. Hit the back a little bit. Boom, done. And probably by the time I get the embossing powder leftovers back in the jar, it'll be dry and ready to ink over. I'm also quite famous for touching something that's literally just been done heat embossing while it's still slightly wet and smudging the heck out of that, because that's just how I roll. I'll get these things put away after. You've all put stamps away. You know what that's all about. Pretty exciting stuff. Okay, so I'm not sure yet if I plan to use any water sprinkles. But in case I do, I have my Ranger Mister ready. So what I'm going to do is just take a quick piece of Elmer's glue dot runner, and I'm just going to put a tiny little bit. Well, I'm not, because it's out. Moving on to Elmer's tape runner, and just putting a tiny little bit in the corners on the back of my card front, just to help hold it onto the table. Probably not super necessary, but it's not a very strong tape. And put my stencil on and find a position that I would like the butterflies to be. My stencil is bigger than the card, which is nice. I can hold it down with tape and not have to worry about it cutting off any edges that I'll be inking. This is just regular masking tape. I'm using it up. It's not the greatest quality. There's not much left. I don't like to waste. Use it up until it's gone, and then I'll probably invest in some painter's tape. I think that's what Christina Warner uses to hold her things down, and it always seems to work out better for her. Like everything else. So I think I'm gonna go, I'm gonna start with the blue. I like to go darker and work my way backwards. I'm gonna start with the blue, and I'm just gonna very lightly do some inking right over the stencil. If I put harder pressure than this, it's gonna mess up the stencil and be really irritating. And I'm working directly onto the surface of this wood desk. I'm not really caring about the desk itself. The desk washes. It's not like it's a priceless heirloom or something. This is something that my husband picked up for free from an elderly couple in the town over that were moving. One of those late night Craigslist deals, if you will. I'm not super worried about the desk. I love my desk, but I work on my desk, and I don't care if it gets stuff on it. Okay, so next I'm going to put in some fossilized amber. Same thing. I'm just very lightly putting a small layer, being mindful of this little part of the stencil right here. Will flip up, so I'm going to come from the opposite direction over here. I'll go back to that, and a little bit of Spice Marmalade. I love these three colors together. Actually, I love the Squeeze Lemonade color instead of Fossilized Amber more, but that is not available in an Oxide yet. Maybe the next batch, Tim Holtz. Please, please, please. So a nice substitute anyway. I like working with these distressed inks. I am not an artist. I don't necessarily consider what I do to be art. I like working with these distress inks because it's really hard to go wrong with them. Oops. Like that. See, I just moved the stencil, the paper a little bit from underneath, but it's not really that big of a deal. It's really hard to mess it up. Just put it right back into space, and now I'm just holding it down with my finger. I suspect that the The Elmer's tape that was underneath was not holding up so great. I used to really like the Elmer's tape runner, but lately, I don't know, maybe the past 6 months or so that I've been buying it, I've not been super impressed with it. So I'm liking the way this looks. Something that I could do would be to press my Versamark pad in here and kind of heat emboss and clear over all of this, which will kind of seal it in, which might be really fun to do. Let me put more one. Get a little bit more orange. Maybe think about that as I dab on some color. Just a little bit more peacock feathers. Well, let's take a look at it first and see if we want to take that extra step. Let me get the caps on my oxides here. One of the things I like about crafting is making it up as you go. If this wasn't a sympathy card, I'd go all out. I'm a huge fan of all things rainbow. I'd go all out, and we'd be having some worn lipstick in here and probably some salty ocean and wilted violet, and it would be just a crazy rainbow thing, but I am trying to tone it down a little bit because it is for a sympathy card. So I like it just the way that it is, and I'm not sure that we need to do any heat embossing over it. Just going to quickly wipe off the sentiment here. I think this is really pretty. I'm not sure if we should put any water on it. Let's give it a little bit of a spritz and see how we like it. A little bit of a spritz. Let it sit for a minute. That thud was our bunny rabbit trying to get my attention over here. She's binking. This is not watercolor paper. This is just ordinary cardstock from Staples, 110-pound cardstock that I like. If I was doing a real watercolor distress piece, I would have put this on watercolor paper. I use either the Canson or the Strathmore watercolor paper. I think I probably have both right now. But just a light, I don't know, what do you think? Does it need anything else? Of course, this light that I need to see is probably not helping you. I kind of like it. It's nice and watercolory. Alright, let me clean the ink off the desk here. Probably I'd say it needs something like glitter, but I don't think that this is a glitter festive occasion. I'm going to heat this a little bit more from the back just to kind of flatten it out a wee bit, and then we'll see what it looks like on the mount. Silly curling paper. Let's see. I love the teals together. I think that looks quite lovely. I'll probably get some Nuvo drops or some glossy accent drops and just put a couple here and there. Okay, so I'm going to put some double-sided tape on the back of this. This is double-sided tape from the $2 bins at Joann's called Mrs. Sparkle and Company, I think is the name. I think that these work great. If you get a chance to get into a Joann's, it's probably the only thing that I still like to buy at Joann's. Unless I'm looking for something specific. I don't shop at Joann's a lot anymore. I really like my online shopping. And not that I am opposed to going out and going shopping, because I do like to shop. I like going out and shopping. I find that the craft stores don't get a lot of new stuff anymore. At least in the paper crafting area. It seems like every time I walk into a craft store, it's overflowing with seasonal decor items that are already made. It's like, hello, you're a craft store. If I wanted to make decor, I'd be making it, but I can't even buy the stuff to make it at your store because it's so overfull with pre-made decor. So I don't do a whole lot. I do like my coupons, and I'll pick up something here and there. One of the things that I would like to pick up that I'm kind of saving my coupon for is I'd like a pair of non-stick scissors for cutting my foam tapes and things. So that's something that I'll be keeping an eye out for when I get my next round of coupons. Okay, I think that looks really nice and simple. I'm gonna get my card base and do the same thing and get the card on the card base. Same tape. This tape is really strong. I like it. Unfortunately, I am running really, really low. But I have been buying a lot of other kinds of tapes to give those a try. So we'll see. Maybe I'll find something else to use. Ideally, I'd like to find several different kinds of brands of tapes that I like, and then, or at least several different suppliers, and I'll just keep my eye out every week or every couple of weeks and be like, oh, well, you know, brand X is on sale, so I'll buy this, and then I'll buy this. And double-sided tape is really, and glue are really things that you don't ever want to not have enough of. So I usually grab, even if I don't have an immediate need, I usually grab things if I see them on sale, because you never know. Okay. Get that mounted up. It's very pretty. I'm just a little bit sad that it's needed. All right, well, that is my sympathy card. I'm gonna turn back my light back on and look at it again a little bit more with a scrutinous eye and see. It might need a couple drops of glossy accents or Nuvo drops or stickles or something just for a little bit more interest. But other than that, it's done. It's a quick and simple sympathy card made with a homemade stencil. I can't justify spending money on stencils when I have a Cricut and plenty of acetate and I can design whatever I want. I'm gonna turn my light back on and clean up my mess and give this another look. Thanks for tuning in. You take care now.